Welcome back, everyone. It is so exciting for us to do our second week in our Passport to Lent. What you will need for this is your Passport to Lent Week 2 packet. You'll also need your map of Israel, the place where Jesus lived. And you'll also need your little bottle. So make sure that you get your bottle out of your envelope. And we're going to talk and do something with that special at the very end. So take a moment and run to your closest window and look out and look and see what you can see. We're going to look out this window right here. What do you see? Do you see snow? Or do you see green grass or green leaves? We live in an area that has a lot of water, and that means a lot of green all around us. In the country of Israel where Jesus lived, there wasn't much water. In fact, even today, there's not a lot of water in Israel. So there aren't as many places that have lush green grass or puddles or snow. Take out your map and look at the place where Jesus lived, in Jerusalem. Last week, we talked about Nazareth up on your map. This week, we're talking about water. And if you look, there's the Sea of Galilee, which is a big lake, and then the Jordan River that goes down. There's the Dead Sea, and over here is the Mediterranean Sea. That's where most of their water is. But even though they have water in their land, it's not enough to make everything green. You see this yellow part here? That's all desert, which means there's not much green at all. So water was super important in Jesus's time and in this time too. If we take out our package and we look at our first page in that picture, you'll see here that there's some tubes that are there. You know, the best way to get water when you lived in Jesus' time was to, one, go to a river or a lake, or you dug really deep down into the ground till you found water underneath the ground and made a well. Or you dug out a cistern, which is you dug a big hole and you filled it with water, or you used the aqueduct. The aqueduct were tubes that carried water from one place to the other. We have tubes that are just like that, but out of different material, even today. See, this is a big tube and it fits in to this tube. And if we put water in the top, it would come down the bottom. And that's kind of how the aqueduct worked, because they didn't have electricity then. So they would build things and have the water go down. But no one had water in their house. They didn't have running water in their house. So if you had to go and get water, you had to bring a pot and fill it with water and bring it all the way home. And usually it wasn't just like I don't know how long it is to your next door neighbor, but usually it was even further than that. Sometimes it might be a whole mile that you would have to go with your water to bring it home. If we look on our second page, you can see that here's a picture of what a lot of Israel looks like. It's kind of rocky and sandy. And here's a picture of a cistern where you can put water in. But you can see here with the Jordan River around there, it's lush and green because there's water. If you look at the next page, you'll see that the way that they brought water was through jugs like this. See that it's on the top of her head? Imagine, because this is about the size they might use, imagine filling this with water, if it could be filled with water, and putting it on top of your head. I don't think I could even balance this on the top of my head, not to mention with water in it. And they'd have to carry it around and then pour it into other jars and use it at home for the day. What do you use water for? Jesus' time, they used it to wash their hands and their face, and to wash their clothes, and to wash their food, and to use it in baking. Do you use water for those things? Then you are just like Jesus. You used water in the same way. But I bet there are things that you do with water that Jesus didn't. I'm thinking about one, brushing your teeth. They didn't really do that much back then. So water was really, really important. And the people who got the water usually were the adult moms and aunts and the kids. So you would be one getting the water back then. You'd be carrying it. I have a challenge for you. If you have a jug of milk, when you are finished with your jug of milk, ask your mom if you can fill it with water and see if you can walk around the outside of your house 2 times. Or if you wait and get 2 jugs of water, fill that and walk around your house and see what it was like back then to carry a lot of water from one place to another. It was so special. You know, what's really important too is to them and to us is being clean. And so they would take water and use it to clean their hands and to clean their faces and their bodies. But they also used water in a really different way. They had special baths or special times of baths in rivers or lakes called mikvahs. And if you look in your packet, you can see this mikvah that's carved into the ground. They would fill that with water, or sometimes they would build them right next to a river so that they would fill with water naturally. And they felt that when they got themselves clean and thought about God while they were getting themselves clean and said some special prayers, that their hearts and their souls would be clean. So like when they did something really awful or mean or what we call sin, they would go and wash up in a mikvah. Once upon a time, there was a man named John, and he told people that they needed to get clean, that they kind of needed to do a mikvah. He called it baptism, that they needed to be baptized. They needed to go under the water, say prayers, and come back up and be clean in their hearts and souls. So they would do good things and not bad. If you look at your picture of John, you can see he's dressed very differently than the way that the people were dressed that we looked at last week. He only wore camel hair. So he didn't have all of the layers that we talked about last week. And he only ate 2 things. Honey. If you've eaten honey, touch your nose. Or locusts, which is kind of like a big grasshopper. Okay, so if you have eaten a grasshopper or a locust, I want you to make chewing noises. I will tell you that I have had crickets before, and they are delicious. So John was telling people to come and get that special bath, that baptism. And they came to the Jordan River. And he was telling them that there was going to be a man that came who was going to be amazing, that he was going to bring good things to Israel and make all of their dreams come true. And he said, oh, and this person is so wonderful, he's perfect. He doesn't need special water or a special bath because he is God's son. But when Jesus came to see John, he did something really strange. He took a bath. He walked into the Jordan River and asked John to baptize him. And John, who was also Jesus' cousin, said, oh, no, I shouldn't do that because, Jesus, you are perfect. You don't need to be have that special wash. You don't need to have that mikvah or that baptism. But Jesus said, I think it's important that I do that. And so he did. Here are some actors who are pretending to be Jesus and John the Baptist in the Jordan River. And Jesus went under the water. You see how he's close to going under the water? He went all the way under the water, and he came back up. And the sky opened up, and God's voice came down and said, Jesus, you are my son, and I am so proud of you. Now, I want you to go and find your little bottle with a little cork in it. Now, with the help of your parent, I would like you to fill up your bottle almost to the top, but not completely to the top. You might notice that there's already stuff in your bottle. We learned a lot about water today, the importance of it and how hard it was in Jesus' time for them to get water and how important it was for them to take those special baths. Once you fill your bottle with water, I'd like you to find some glue and stick the glue on the cork and stick it right in there. And you can't do this today because you have to wait for it for the glue to get dry. But when it is, then I want you to turn your bottle, and you can see how special it looks with that glitter inside it. I want you to put it somewhere during the rest of Lent as we think about Jesus and how life was like for him in Israel and the important things that he did as the Son of God. And I want you to look at this bottle and shake it and think about Jesus being baptized. Do you know that you may be baptized as well? Not everyone is. Sometimes they do it as a baby, and sometimes they do it as an adult. And in our church, we often just sprinkle a little water. We don't go all the way into the river like Jesus did. But if you are baptized, I want you to think that when you look at this, that you are baptized just like Jesus. You're connected to Jesus through that baptism. It's so special. Friends, it's time for us to be done in our learning, but I want to say goodbye to you with our song, Shalom Haravim. Sing with me. Shalom Haravim, Shalom Haravim, Shalom, Shalom, Lachitreot, Lachitreot, Shalom, Shalom. Shalom, friends. Peace. Till next week.